It was a dream that I saw.
A dream?
The city started to crumble apart, covered by a big shadow, and lots of people died, and the three of us, we get to meet Zombie Takeout again.
What? Zombie takeout?
What's up? Welcome to episode 285 of Zombie Takeout.
Zombie takeout.
The B-Movie and Cult Movie Podcast. I'm Uncle John.
And I'm Scotto.
And before we get to this week's movie, we've got some listeners submitted. This is predictably a voicemail from Chaz. Let's take a listen.
Hey guys, Chaz here. Hey dudes, thanks for listening to me and reviewing Fido. I know you're gonna eventually do it anyways. I'm so glad you got to it. And so was my son. Oh, by the way, the other brother was a zombie. You may have missed it. Oh crap. You made me shoot my stupid brother. That's how he became the zombie. Anyways, thanks again. Looking forward to episode 300. Maybe it'll have zombies in it. Also, we are so stoked that it made the rec list. 5 brains. That's the way to go. Thanks again, guys. And thanks for listening.
You're welcome, Chaz. It actually took me a minute to figure out what you were talking about the brother. And the way we do this is I read the text of the voicemail to Scott. I don't play it while we're recording. And I was reading it, and you reacted to it, and I finally clicked into what he meant by the brother. It was the two bullies.
At first you're thinking like, wait, there wasn't a brother? And then it was like, no, it was the bully. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was the two bullies. That explains how the one became a zombie, right? Because we couldn't figure that out.
We couldn't figure out why he became a zombie because he was shot. He wasn't actually killed by a zombie.
Right.
That's
in that universe, you don't need to be bitten by a zombie to become a zombie, right? Anyone who dies becomes a zombie. It's like Walking Dead.
The radiation was still there. Yeah, okay.
And we have some news. This is from nerdbastards.com. Love that name. Kevin Smith just revealed Mallrats 2 won't be a film, but something better.
I have heard this.
Kevin Smith called into 93.3 WMMR radio in Philadelphia. Used to love that station. Nothing against it. I just haven't listened to the radio in like a decade.
Oh man, my trip to Jersey was all sorts of hair metal and I kind of over OD'd on it.
And chatted with the morning team of Preston and Steve, and had intended on discussing his live podcast, Hollywood Babble On, at the Trocadero this coming Saturday. But when the conversation turned to Mallbrats, which is the new name of Mallrats 2, the director obliged with the scoop. And then they have this long quote that I'm not going to bother reading, but the long and short of it is, Smith revealed that his plans for a sequel went askew. Someone will get that. And it actually says in the article, someone will get that.
Yeah.
That wasn't my joke.
I get it.
When he learned that Universal wouldn't release the title for the first Mallrats and allow him to make a sequel on his own, so now it looks like we'll be getting more Mallrats than we first anticipated. A 10-episode run is a great start and could potentially lead to more episodes or a series renewal. So it's going to be a 10-episode series now. No word on affiliation with a network or a streaming service that will host the show. Mallrats will see the return of 18 familiar faces along with 6 new characters. Filming will be done at the Exton Square Mall in Exton, Pennsylvania, as previously announced.
What the fuck is wrong with Universal?
They like to hold on to their properties. They would have made it with him. It's not like a Serenity deal, or a Firefly, I should say. But he didn't want to make it with the studio. He wanted to make it on his own.
I mean, why? What are they doing with the property? You know?
They just want to be able to make any money off of it that they can, I'm guessing. They want to keep their fingers in the pie.
I don't even understand how they own it, you know?
Well, he made it with them. He made the original movie with them. They retained the title.
20 years ago.
Yeah, they still own the title because copyright doesn't run out thanks to Disney.
Mm.
Anyway, on to this week's movie, which is from 1988, Akira. And I'm going to be pronouncing that correctly from now on, but a lot of people know it as Akira.
Because we speak English, man.
Well, it's a Japanese word, though. Actually, it's specifically a Japanese name, so the correct pronunciation would be Akira, regardless of the language you're speaking. Of course, that brings us to the impromptu plot summary, sponsored by Aging. You may have to grow old, but you don't have to grow up.
And also brought to you by the games of the 30th or 32nd Olympiad. Have they checked to see what's under the stadium yet?
They should probably do that in Giant Stadium, too.
Maybe. But there's no, no
Yeah.
Okay, so I went back and listened to our original review of this. Have we?
I should point out, this is a revisit. We already reviewed this back in episode 48. We've been talking about re-reviewing some movies just to see if our take has changed on them.
This is the very first for Zombie Takeout.
Yeah, this was our first anime. The revisit is a new thing. We've been talking about this for a while, and because we just did Ghost in the Shell, it seemed like a good place to start. I
think you should put just sort of an anime list, a Zombie Takeout anime list together, just to have them, conclusive,
A list on the site, on the sidebar somewhere, all the anime.
Probably, or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Link off to.
We've only done like 6 so far, I think.
Really? Because it feels like we've done a lot more.
Akira, Dead Leaves, Spirited Away, Tokyo Godfathers, Time of Eve, and the last one, Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah, I guess so.
It hasn't been that many. We do about one a year.
So yeah, this was the first, and we did this back in August of 2010. And it sounds like we were doing it from the Apollo 11 capsule.
Yeah. We were using a program called Gizmo back then. I think Gizmo 5 actually was the technical name. It didn't have the best recording quality, and we both had crap mics.
And for some reason, we might not have been using notes back then.
Yeah, because you couldn't find your notes. And I know I didn't start off using notes. So it's entirely possible.
I'm not sure how any of this went down.
I should point out, you went back and re-listened to the original review. I haven't. I reviewed this as if I'd never reviewed it before. So this will be interesting.
Yeah, and the impromptu plot summary is hilarious. I was very overwhelmed by it then. Not so much this time. I mean, it's still a lot to take in, don't get me wrong, and I will do an impromptu plot summary redux here. So we begin with this motorcycle gang. They're going for this sort of this Clockwork Orange
Clockwork
Warriors.
meets Blade Runner.
Yeah, meets Blade Runner thing going on.
Because the city is very Blade Runner.
Oh, definitely. Well, of course, Blade Runner there's a lot of Tokyo influence on Blade Runner itself. Sure. So, to imagine what Tokyo is going to be like all the way in the year 2019.
That's 3 years from now. I just realized that.
And I guess I got to say it up front, with my sponsor, Tokyo is hosting the Olympics
in 2020. Yeah,
just like the movie.
Well, I mean that's a scheduled thing. They were probably already scheduled to host it in 2020 when the movie was made. No,
when we reviewed this originally, it was just kind of like, oh yeah, what's going to go on in the 2020 Olympics? I make a joke. They didn't actually pick Tokyo until 2013.
Oh wow. Wow.
Yes. So yes, Tokyo. Now the other guy joke with my sponsor was 30th or 32nd. Next year's, 2020 is going to be the 32nd games, but for some reason they have it on the sign as the 30th.
Oh, okay.
In the movie, so I'm not sure why. Unless they're assuming that there were 2 not held for war.
Perhaps, yeah.
But looking at Olympic history, there are 3 that were not held because of the World Wars.
I should point out that you actually skipped at the very beginning of the movie, which shows a large explosion leveling Tokyo and creating Neo-Tokyo.
Well, yes, and I make several atomic bomb jokes, which I was like, wow,
Well,
I went for it, huh? We swung for the fences.
It was an obvious reference to Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Something about sensitivity to those things. I don't know. But anyway, so yes, we see those, and they rebuilt Tokyo as Neo-Tokyo throughout the 1990s, and yet
there was World War III.
Yes, there was World War III, and after World War III, we have the gangs. The Capsules, our heroes gang, has a bit of a rumble with the Clowns, which that's straight out of the Warriors.
Yeah, exactly. I have that in my notes, and I probably said it back in 2010 when we reviewed it the first time.
Well, I mean, we were pretty fresh off the Warriors too, considering. Yeah. I mean, that was our episode 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But so we in the middle of this rumble, though, all hell breaks loose because this is much more dystopian than even Clockwork or Blade Runner or anything. It gets real. I mean, there are government protesters and rebels, and there's just violence in the street. It isn't just like Clockwork where there are a lot of nice people trying to, mind their business and some ruffians.
And then there's this one gag kind of just fucking with things, yeah.
No, this is everyone's out for something here, and there's shit gets real where they are, they're bringing in tanks and just general destruction. One of their friends,
Tetsuo,
he gets almost seemingly randomly taken out. He's wounded in the rumble, but he sees something he should not have seen.
Actually, I don't think he gets wounded. He just almost runs someone over, and that leads to him, seeing something he shouldn't see, as you put it.
Yes. And it turns out he has a psychic connection, if you will, because the government has been doing experiments on, psychic ability because, in this universe, it turns out psychic ability has a lot of other powers where you can just change your reality around you and do whatever you want with it. So, of course, they're looking to create the ultimate weapon somehow. And, he, of course, becomes the Frankenstein monster, and hilarity ensues.
I'd never really connected Frankenstein, but you're right.
Oh, yeah. I think... Did we mention it? No, I don't think we did. No, you're right.
I don't know that I'd read Frankenstein when we reviewed that the first time. So, interesting. Now, I should mention, I own this on DVD, but because I'm too lazy to go hunt down the disc, I found a copy online.
That is so true. I pirate things not out of greed because I've paid for them already and have them somewhere in a drawer.
Yeah.
But it's not even laziness, it's just out of time. I'd have to dig through so many boxes to find something, or I could just type the name into the computer and have it done for me.
So I didn't feel like looking for the disc, so I downloaded a copy. Turned out to be the original dub from '88.
Oh, wow.
They redid the dub in 2001. As soon as I realized it was the '88 dub, it was so bad that I had to not dig out the disc, but find another copy online that was the 2001 dub. And the 2001 dub copy that I had missed those first few minutes because I had advanced it a bit to make sure it was the right dub. Everything before where I'd advanced it to was lost. It didn't download. So I didn't get a chance to see the beginning with the correct dub, with the newer dub. So I didn't see the line that we used for the previous intro, because I think that's right at the beginning.
Yeah, I think it was a line that you'd picked out, too.
Yeah, it was. And I think it's right at the beginning in the bar.
I'm not even sure because I mean, and this is what got me really wanting to listen to our original review, because I listened to subtitled this time.
Yeah, okay. You usually do watch subbed. I always watch dubbed.
And it turned, and I was like, did I do this last time? Because some of the audio in this is really fucking strange. Like some of the scoring.
Oh yeah, the score is great.
It's really out there, and I was like, did I listen to this, version last time? And sure enough, I did.
Yeah.
In fact, I complained about it several times about just being overwhelmed by having to follow subtitles
in this movie
and anime at the same time.
Yeah. Well, because you had very little experience with anime when you saw this.
Yeah, definitely. I think you can count Star Blazers, which we talked about back then.
I don't know if that really counts.
But yeah, I guess this would have been the first.
And overall, it's a great film, but it has one major flaw. And I'm just going to get to this early on.
Sure.
They really needed an editor.
It's tough. I mean, there's so much crammed into this.
They could easily take a half hour out.
I don't know.
Like, did we need the scene where Kaneda comes back and steals the bike? Because he just got picked up again. It didn't change anything. Or the protesters attacking while the rest of the guys were on a date. We didn't need that scene. There's just too many loose ends that it just tries to tie together. And it's based on a manga that ran from, I think, 88 to 90. And this really is just the first half of the manga. So in a manga, in a comic book, you have a lot more you can play with. You can stretch things out a lot more and, play with a lot more background. In a movie, you really need to narrow that stuff down. And I feel like they didn't quite do that well enough.
But isn't that what a lot of purists like, though? Is for them
This is true. This is true.
Stick with every letter that's been written in the original source material.
And I've said that about things before. And I used to have the first issue of the manga. I got rid of it in a book purge a few years ago.
Oh.
And I get that point. That, purists want, as I've put it before, the text on screen with no alteration.
And for me, since I'm not familiar with their source material, just looking at it as a movie, I don't know if I want it to be pared down or not. I mean,
okay.
I could totally see where you're coming from, that it is, there's just so much.
I kind of checked out a little about an hour in.
It's over 2 hours long, but I feel it's just filled. I mean, there's just so much to say in it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a lot to take in.
Well, for example, the protesters, the anti-government group, I can't decide if they add texture or if they're an unnecessary complication.
I think they add texture, definitely. But because there's too many of these, futuristic movies where, they're talking about it being a dystopia, but it's not really a dystopia. Like Fifth Element was ridiculous. It was like an amusement park.
I think we just said dystopia to make it fit in with the trilogy.
No, there are people that have called it a dystopian film.
Okay.
Where, it's an amusement park ride.
Basically.
It's not really a dystopian.
Not at all.
But this, I think this really sums up what it is.
Yeah.
And kind of get this uneasy feeling as I'm watching it, because I'm like, this is 3 years from now? Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, the whole Esper, psychic thing, that's a government project, so the general public wouldn't know about that. Aside from that, I mean, there's some technology we don't have, like with Kaneda's bike.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it really is kind of disturbingly
scary.
Yeah.
Scary as fuck.
And it really does a nice job of showing the tension between the military, scientists, and the government. They all hate each other, basically.
Yeah.
And they all have their own purposes and are working against each other. But just getting to the art and animation, it reminded me a bit of Disney. Like old school Disney. Which on one hand is kind of impressive for an 88 anime. But on the other hand, kind of broke the mood a little bit. Because some of the facial expressions get a little ridiculous.
It's, a leap forward, though, you know?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely a big step forward. This was 7 years after Ghost in the Shell, and it's so much more fluid.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it seems a bit more simplistic than it may be, but...
Well, yeah, the animation. The art style is much more simplistic, yes. But the animation is so much more fluid. There's nothing blocky about it. And that was my big criticism of the animation in Ghost in the Shell, is that it was kind of blocky.
And action was just illustrated so much better in this.
Yeah.
Where Ghost in the Shell was kind of like, really? Okay. So, yeah, they do the slow motion thing.
Actually, a bit of trivia on that along those lines. At the time, most anime was notorious for cutting production corners with limited animation, such as having only characters' mouths move while they're talking while everything remains static. Akira broke from this trend with detailed scenes, pre-scored dialogue, wherein dialogue was recorded before the film starts production and the movements of the characters' lips animated to match it, a first for an anime production. And also, it included 160,000 animation cells. So this was, cutting edge in terms of animation at the time.
We talked about in the original about how they invented colors.
That's right. Yeah, I remember talking about that. Yeah, I missed that trivia this time.
So, like, what did they name one Rupert?
Right. I remember now. I think that means there were colors that weren't available in either ink or on a computer, depending on how they did it. That they had to mix specially for the movie to get it closer to reality. They're obviously they're colors that exist in the real world. They just didn't exist in ink or on a computer, depending on how it was done. Now, there's a scene in a police station right after the big rumble between the capsules and the clowns. They mentioned that the clowns ended up in the hospital, several of them. I'm surprised that half of them survived it. Because you have them getting taken off their bikes with lead pipes and shit.
Oh, yeah, there's just insane violence in
it.
But, ultra violence, if you will.
And that scene also has a nice moment where a protester pulls out a grenade.
Right.
And it turns out to be a dud.
Or just a smoke grenade.
Yeah, probably just a smoke bomb. He thought it was an actual grenade. Which actually I think added some nice background tension. Because the scene wasn't really about that at that point.
No.
We didn't really know much about the protesters. Here's just this nutcase with a grenade in the police station. And it was just a nice bit of, it was a very tense moment before it became a smoke grenade. And it just was a nice bit of background.
It kind of interrupted what he was trying to discover something or unravel some of the mystery.
Mm-hmm.
Like he'd said something and the cop was like, wait a minute, what'd you say? And then that's when the guy pulls.
It was basically a transition out of the scene, effectively.
So it throws them off the trail.
Mm. And I really liked that Kaneda was very true to his character. He never really became the good guy.
No.
His friend was just kidnapped by the government, and he's still trying to get laid. Trying to hit on this woman who was with the protesters. Although I did have an issue with kind of what I'm calling his Tetsuo's bad attitudes, just kind of popping up out of nowhere, randomly. Like sometimes he's an okay guy, and sometimes he's a complete asshole. And you can never really track when he's going to be which.
It could be the biggest point I disagree with myself from the past.
Uh-huh.
For some reason, I was putting him as a Derek Wildstar type,
and
it doesn't really fit in. I mean, Derek Wildstar is sort of Han Solo, or Skywalker combined, Star Blazers.
Oh, okay. It's been ages.
But this, this is pretty much Alex from Clockwork Orange.
Pretty much. Who actually really just becomes a good guy out of circumstance because his friend was taken by the government.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could almost say that Alex himself was just, in his circumstances.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm. He just didn't have the opportunity to become any kind of hero.
Yeah. Which, if you think about it, wow, what a movie Clockwork would have been if the shit hit the fan and those became the good guys.
Wow. I kind of want a sequel along those lines.
That's kind of what he did here.
Yeah.
It was worth exploring.
Right.
And then it transitions into a monster movie. I mean, you have everything here.
Yeah. And you also have a very refreshing, in light of Ghost in the Shell, lack of exposition.
Oh, yeah.
It explains a little bit about the protesters, but beyond that, it just drops you in and expects you to keep up.
Right. Yeah, it does give you the whole, like, the blast, what year it is and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you see, like, a very quick newscast of what's going on.
Right.
Which, if they wanted to cut it down and cut some of those scenes out, you could just leave it at that about, the violence in the streets on the newscast.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't do as good a job.
Well, yeah, you do
as
want that little
actually
bit of
seeing
intro.
it.
Yeah, just explaining, I guess. And you definitely need to see the explosion at the beginning, because that's kind of the whole point.
But yeah, the biggest thing to overcome with this is just how much they've crammed into it.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, like, at one point they show them at school, even though they've never mentioned any kind of schooling.
Well, right. That's like, wait a minute. How old are these kids?
Mm-hmm.
The one girl that they, tear her top off.
Yeah.
How old is she exactly?
Cowdery, I think her name is.
Are we gonna have like agents knocking down our door?
Well,
because
it's
we watched
animated,
this?
so I don't necessarily think so.
All right. I'm blaming you though.
But that's the scene I'm talking about particularly, because in the middle of the scene, Tetsuo, who had broken out of the government facility, steals Kaneda's bike and goes for a joyride with his girlfriend, Kaori, and he just ends up getting picked up by the government again. It accomplished nothing. You could cut that scene out, and he's just in government custody. Granted, it's like a 10-minute scene. It doesn't cut much, but...
I was going to say, was there like another gang fight there where the gang
he
attacked him first?
Another gang took down his bike and sexually assaulted Kaori. And, Kaneda and another friend of theirs caught up to them, and they Tetsuo beat down their leader and yada yada. But what's the point? You can cut that part out, and it doesn't really add anything.
So just have it that he doesn't get out in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, all it really is the first hint of what I've been calling Tetsuo's whiny LMS. Little man syndrome.
Yeah.
He definitely has a case of little man syndrome, and he gets really whiny about it here and there. And that's really the first time where it happens. It's kind of the first hint of what's going to come. But you could do without it.
Maybe it wouldn't make sense then if he was just
whiny.
whiny.
It would kind of come out of nowhere. You do have this one little hint about it, and he explains that, he's kind of been in Kaneda's shadow. Now, another criticism I have, it kind of demonizes science a bit, which I understand given, the inspiration for it.
Well, it's strange because the scientists are the reckless ones and the military are the cautious ones.
Which is an interesting juxtaposition, because I understand demonizing science because Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but then why would you make the military the careful ones?
Yeah.
It doesn't quite track.
The military had their, had some of that stuff on their hands for those two events. It wasn't just this, these mean scientists came over and fucked things up.
Yeah, but it was the American military, so I guess it's easy enough to wash that away. Or at least not apply that to your own.
Well, that's always been a controversy, is just how much of, like, Pearl Harbor is taught over there, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of their history books, are just like, and then we did this terrible things, and it was like, there's a context to it, though, man.
Yeah.
It wasn't good, I won't say that, but there's a context to it.
Right. And well, generally speaking, I was actually watching something about this on YouTube, about how Japan's view of the West, it can be kind of skewed in some ways, because they are very isolated.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot of foreigners there. They don't know much about the outside world.
My niece is there, actually, as we speak.
Oh, okay.
I missed her on the visit over. She's been there for a few weeks.
So that stands to reason that their view of particularly World War II and their involvement with it would be a little censored.
It's like how we have our
textbooks. our view of the wrongs we've done are censored as well, of course.
Right, we've completely skewed our history books. we had this great table and a feast, and everybody,
right.
you know.
Exactly. Back to the movie.
Back to the movie.
Like I mentioned with Kaneda, he's kind of continually trying to get some, despite all of the drama going on. And I love how after he insistently flirts with Kay, they meet up with the other rebels, and they just completely punk him out. They tie him up, throw him in a closet. Stop just shy of beating him down.
Yeah.
I love that they're kind of making him up to be this hero and this ladies' man, and they'll just pull the rug right out from under that.
And of course, you got to commend them for not actually going into the relationship or anything.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Because she's kind of like, wait, what? Us? What do you mean there's an us?
Yeah. Although, I will criticize the art style here a little bit, because they're drawn kind of similarly.
Yeah.
And towards the end, she's wearing his jacket, and I really couldn't tell the difference until she spoke.
Yeah, they're a lot of the people are very similar. Like, they're the best friend.
Yeah.
The other gang member was quite similarly drawn. It was kind of like, wait a minute, isn't that Kaneda?
Oh, real quick, just noticed in my trivia, we were talking about, how much they should have cut. The director of the film also wrote and illustrated the manga. So that would explain why he was hesitant to cut things out.
Yeah, he just wanted to put his story up into film.
Now, I am a little curious how Akira went from being this secret test subject who blew up Tokyo to being this sort of messianic figure. There are these large groups of people in Tokyo who are basically worshipping him and waiting for his return. But he really just exploded. Why didn't they just scuttle the project and hide his name?
I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question, how his name even came out.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they scuttled the project because, his remains were frozen.
I think...
How did the people find out?
I think there was something going on with psychic energy, actually.
Okay, so he kind of spoke to everybody.
Because from what I'm gathering,
which he does to Tetsuo at points in the movie, yeah.
Right. Like, I think he's reached out to people.
Mm-hmm. Or he did in the explosion, perhaps.
Yeah.
That could be it.
And, like, Tetsuo's connection to the ability and to Akira, even from the beginning, is kind of hard to get just from watching the film.
Yeah.
But but it's there.
Mm-hmm. And the numbers talk to Tetsuo, and I think they talked to Kaneda at one point, psychically.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Akira, when he blew up, could have just contacted everybody. Or at least certain people who became his cult.
Was that a Life of Brian reference in there?
Which part?
There was something about, like, a messiah. I know a messiah when I see one.
That could have been.
I swear.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
There was a Life of Brian reference thrown in the middle.
Nice.
I followed a few in my day.
Yeah. And now we get to probably my favorite part, with the possible exception of the ending. The giant stuffed animals.
Oh, yes.
This was your first taste of weird-ass anime.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the audio cues that go with the giant stuffed animals it's fucking great. Milk leaking stuffed animals.
That are basically coming to attack Tetsuo.
Like, at first you're like, oh, what's this fluid? Wait, is that milk?
Well, it starts with these normal-sized stuffed animals walking across his bed.
Yeah.
And then suddenly a giant teddy bear comes at him. That's leaking milk. And then a giant bunny shows up, and then a giant frog. It's just a beautifully trippy scene.
Now, we compared the ending to 2001 in the original.
Mm-hmm. Well, the very ending, yeah.
But it's not exactly... I always saw 2001's ending as almost a non sequitur. Almost like, how the fuck do we end this thing? I know, let's have this real trippy image. Whereas this, the entire movie is about the evolution of man.
True. Yeah.
And what we're becoming and what we're going to be. And can we rise above our own
Right.
stupidity.
Do we have the emotional control to handle the kind of power we're going to have?
Right, exactly. So I feel the ending is, I mean, it's pretty logical,
Well,
actually.
yeah, the implosion of Tetsuo.
Yeah.
The weird part is the bit of at the end where he says, "I am Tetsuo." Where he's just kind of crossed over into something.
Yeah.
Incidentally, the black circles seen just before that were actually a pencil test. They just decided to put it in the movie in this particularly weird part just because it fit. And that ending is amazing. I think, as much as I'm complaining about it dragging, the last half hour, the showdown between Kaneda and Tetsuo, really earns a lot back.
And you're kind of like, how could this, be the final showdown when there's so much time left in the film?
It's a hell of a showdown.
But it's a hell of a showdown. And there's a hell of a resolution here, too.
And they do a great job of showing psychic fighting, which is a really hard thing to show. It's like a magic battle. It's how do you demonstrate it?
It is. I don't know if they ever do a live action of this.
I don't know that they could.
Not sure how they'd pull that off.
Well, also, like, when his arm becomes metal, which I understand because he just draws metal from the environment and shapes an arm.
Yeah.
But at one point, also, all of this flesh sort of fires from his body.
Yes.
Where the hell does it come from?
He becomes the monster.
Yeah, I get the metaphoric meaning of it. But from a physics standpoint, where does all the mass come from? Where does all the matter come from? It's more than his body can hold. And it looks like just his internal organs are spewing out.
Yeah, he lets a lot of people in.
Yeah, exactly. And again, another very minor criticism, which I can level at probably 90% of the movies we've reviewed. It is a bit of a morality play because his whiny LMS kind of leads to his destruction.
Well, yeah.
Which is kind of the point, do we have the emotional control to handle evolution? Yeah.
So, yes, they do. It's very wary of science, but it is also talking about evolution.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not exactly anti-science. It's just, it paints the scientists as the bad guys, which is common in a lot of science fiction. A lot of it results from science gone wrong, which is, also not exactly a great message. So I guess it's no worse than in a lot of other sci-fi in that sense.
Really, if you look at it, everyone's a bad guy.
Well, true. Even the general is kind of, or colonel is.
I mean, he has like the samurai honor code and everything,
mm-hmm.
and but he's he completely let this happen.
Right.
He only started saying this was a bad idea, not even like after Tokyo blows up, but like when it's about to blow up again. He said, "You know what? I think we might have made a mistake here." Like, really genius. Really.
Incidentally, in addition to being credited with helping popularize anime in the West, along with Ghost in the Shell, and a great series called Cowboy Bebop, which if you're in the US, it's on Hulu, watch it. It's generally considered to be the greatest anime series ever made, and it was a big influence on Firefly. So highly recommend checking that out. It's also considered, back to Akira, by many critics to be one of the greatest animated and science fiction movies of all time. Greatest animated, I can see. I don't know if I'd say one of the greatest science fiction movies of all time.
I could see how they would say that, though, because, I mean, doesn't it feel like they've nailed 2019?
Oh, yeah, well, obviously,
else?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really scary. Like, we're not in flying cars or anything.
Right. Well, they weren't in the movie. They were normal cars.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was just kind of his bike was a little too advanced. But I mean, 3 years from now, who knows?
That's the point. I mean, there are no flying cars in the movie. Yeah. It's not.
He has a laser weapon, but he gets that from the government, so that could be in development.
The military will definitely be using laser weapons in the next 5 years, probably, likely.
And so, okay, now we have Tetsuo the Blob.
Yeah.
He becomes this big, hulking, massive flesh.
Which I believe South Park referenced this in the
probably
episode.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know if you're familiar with that one, where Cartman has a trapper keeper that he named Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
And this is before, like,
Uh-huh.
that was even a joke.
Right. So he becomes this giant hulking mass of flesh. Joel and the bots try to take him down. The SOL.
Yeah.
The SOL, the satellite called Soul, SOL shoots him. Satellite of love. Okay. I thought that joke would work better.
We talked about that at the original.
Did we? Okay.
Yes, we did.
That's why it didn't play.
At the various meanings of SOL
Uh-huh.
or soul.
Yeah, okay. I can also see the other meaning fitting. Yeah, shit out of luck. Yeah, because they were.
Yeah. Well, yeah, at the point they decide, oh, we've got this satellite, maybe we should use that. They were SOL. It was way too late. Why don't they get what they've created?
Yeah.
Even that was kind of the most frustrating part about it.
And they create well, it's more to the point, why didn't they get what they created again?
Right.
Because they had Akira 30 something years earlier blow up Tokyo.
But he was even more powerful than Akira.
Mm-hmm.
You know, why did they get what they had created?
Right.
They created something that can manipulate reality. That's not going to end.
No, especially when it's a teenage boy. Although I did like the sort of backstory we get when he's observing people. You know, we see Akira's beginnings, and then we see Tetsuo and Kaneda at a young age. Incidentally, Akira, the character, probably the most Japanese-looking anime character I've ever seen.
You're right.
Because most anime characters don't, even if they are Japanese, don't necessarily look it.
Right. Well, Ghost in the Shell, I mean, they mostly look white.
Yeah. Akira looks completely Japanese. It's kind of surprising. And so, he becomes this giant blob, absorbs everybody, and then just kind of implodes. The espers, the numbers. I keep referring to the espers. There's these three. How do you describe them? Because we've never talked about them.
One looks like a baby Donald Trump.
Yeah, kind of. They're
really strange. He's got like the orange hair. It's like, combed over.
They're basically kids who have aged but not aged.
Yeah.
Their bodies are the same size as kids, but their faces are elderly. And they're clearly very old.
Pretty damn creepy, yeah.
Yeah. They're in the facility with Tetsuo, and they help bring him down in the end. I think they're the ones who made him transition, or I should say, did he ascend? Is that a way of putting it?
I guess you could say that, yeah.
They're the one, they kind of trigger the ascension and get him out of the way so that he doesn't destroy Neo-Tokyo any more than he already has, which he kind of did destroy it, much like Akira did, because he does explode, yeah. One of my titles was Boom Goes the Test Subject. And this was the highest grossing film of 1988, according to Wikipedia.
I was trying to find international grosses.
I didn't find the number. Actually, I think it was IMDb or Wikipedia. One or the other said it was the highest grossing film of 88, which is kind of surprising. I don't know if they've just been animated. I have a feeling they left a word out there, or there was some kind of qualifier.
I don't think so, because I was looking at movies grossing in Japan, and I don't think it was number one in Japan.
Oh, wow. Okay. Anyway, I'm done with my notes. On to sequels and remakes.
On to sequels and remakes.
Of course, there's the American live-action version, which I've complained about a few times. That is fortunately currently in development hell and doesn't look like it's going to leave it anytime soon.
I'd be interested to see a live-action version of this.
I would like to see a live-action version, but only if it's a Japanese live-action version. I don't want to see it Americanized.
I think you're right. That's the only way to go. I mean, 6 years ago, we'd had the name Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, he was trying to get it to happen. He was
to get it made. Yeah, who knows what part he was going to play in it, if any.
But in addition to seeing Asian actors get some work, this story is very Japanese.
It is.
It is directly inspired by the bombings in World War II. So setting it in America doesn't make sense.
And I think with what happened with Ghost in the Shell, that if they do make this, there is a chance they'd be more sensitive to that.
That too, yes. Now, on the positive side of the sequels and remakes front, in January of this year, Katsuhiro Otomo, the writer, illustrator of the manga and director of the movie, revealed at a French comic festival that an anime TV series was being considered. So this may turn into a series.
I don't know.
Which
I can't.
I think it'll be better because it'll much like the manga, it'll give them room to stretch out and tell all of the stories in due time without overloading the audience.
Like, I can't see an animated remake of it because it's already been done, you know?
But the technology's a lot better now.
True.
I would like to see this with modern day animation and art styles, and also, again, a stretched out version that doesn't get so overwhelming and at times boring because they're just trying to tell too much of a story.
They've got 2 movies here crammed into one, it feels like.
Effectively, yeah.
I mean, I don't know at what action, you know, it would end with, but you get the feeling that you want to see more of their life as just regular gangsters, kind of, you know?
The prequel, effectively.
Not necessarily.
Not a full movie prequel, but yeah, you do want a little more setup for them before they get to the main event.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because I always complain about movies that take too long to set up, and this takes no time at all.
Well, I mean,
I should have called it out for that.
The setup is, of course, you're talking about rumbles and, you know, riots and.
But it's within
insanity.
like 10 minutes that, you know, the espers show up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's no time to set up at all. There's no boring kind of introductions, which, again, is a point in its favor. On the brains?
On the brains.
I really wasn't sure going in what I was going to rate this. In fact, I had all of the ratings in my notes. I put the ratings in my notes so I don't have to type because my mic is in front of my keyboard. And I had them all there just to give myself any leeway to go whichever way I wanted to. But yeah, I'm going to go where I'd originally thought I would, 4.5.
I was, you know, bouncing back and forth between 4.5 and 5. Do we penalize this for trying to do too much? And the answer is no. You have movies that, you know, that have dead space that can be cut, but I don't think this is one of them. In fact, I think this is one where they could stretch out and probably do more with what they've got here already. And that's over 2 hours.
Which is why I'm hopeful for the series.
Crazy. So, yeah, I'm going to stick with my 5.
All right. And what have we learned?
We learned that, you know, when you have the ultimate power, you should just, you know, approach it casually. You know, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, don't get upset.
Yeah.
And I learned that the only foolish questions are the unasked ones. Or maybe not. All right, so until next week, when we'll be revealing Gleaming the Cube. Just kidding. We're actually going to bite the bullet. It's time.
Oh, do we have to?
Yeah, we have to. We put it off enough.
I'm not going to watch it sober.
That's fine. That's fine.
Much like the first time I saw it, I'm going to be pretty lit, I think.
It's going to be hard to say, but I got to say the name. Until next time, when we'll be reviewing Batman and
Nipples.
Robin.
Oh, what's that?
Nipples, the movie, yes. Until then, go to zombietakeout.com, check out the album art, the episode description, of course, the episode itself, which you're already listening to, links to find us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and YouTube, links to subscribe via RSS and iTunes. Please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you enjoy the show, spread the word. Give us a little word of mouth. Of course, we appreciate all of the listeners we have, but more would be better. You also find the movie list, every movie we've reviewed so far, and every movie we're going to review. I can, in reference to Chaz's voicemail, say that there could arguably be a zombie in episode 300, the movie we're reviewing in 300.
Very tough to say. I don't know.
It's a judgment call.
Yeah, he hasn't. I don't think he actually dies in the first place, though, to become a zombie. In fact, I think he never dies.
Well, that's true. You'll also find the request form. If you've got a movie you'd like to hear us review, leave it on the request form. And, of course, the recommendations list. I would have been very surprised if this didn't make the rec list. Again, I didn't expect it to get a double 5 again, hence I suggested re-reviewing it. But I would have been really shocked if it didn't make it.
We only lost half a brain on it in 6 years.
You can also email us, zombietakeout@gmail.com, or leave us a voicemail at 414-368-ZTO1, or for the Alphanumerical Challenged.
You can oversized fleshly spot yourself.
414-368-9861. Of course, always remember that she will always be calling from Neo Tokyo, or actually Milwaukee. And of course, until next time, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life, there you are.
Don't you ever stop talking?
Anyway, thanks again. Looking forward to episode 300. Maybe it'll have zombies in it. I don't think so. Not that I recall. Maybe.
Ooh.
We are so stoked that it made the rec list. This is getting cut out, which is not going to the audience, obviously.
Okay.
This is me just telling you what Chaz said.
Yeah. I was going to say, spoilers, major. We have 15 episodes left before you can drop it.